Welcome back to Maths Nation. Today we're going to be going through the 2024 November Paper 3 Calculator Foundation Tier paper. We'll be going through each and every question step by step to make sure that we get full marks. Let's get into it. Question 1 says, write down the value of the 7 in the number 3721. So we need to work out the value of this 7 here. And we can see that that is in the 700th column. So in the 100th column, and so the answer is 700. Question 2 says, work out 1/6 of 96. So if we work out 1/6 of 96, that's 96 divided by 6, and that is equal to 16. Question 3 says, write down 2 factors of 16. So we need to figure out 2 numbers that have 16 in their multiplication. So we can pick anything between 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. Let's just go for 2 and 4. Question 4 says, write the following numbers in order. Start with the lowest number. So the smallest number is going to be -7, then -3, then 0, 4, and 6. Question 5 says, find the value of 2.25 square rooted. If we put that into our calculator, we get the value 1.5. So the square root of 2.25 is 1.5. Question 6a says, solve x plus x plus x plus x is equal to 20. So there's 4 x's, and so we can say 4x is equal to 20. And so we take the 4 to the other side, it becomes divide. That's 20 divided by 4, which is equal to 5. So the value of x is 5. Question B says, solve y plus 7 is equal to 24. So what we need to do is we need to take the plus 7 to the other side. It becomes -7. And so y is equal to 24 minus 7. And that is equal to 17. So the value of y is 17. Part C says, solve w over 2 is equal to 4. And so we're going to take this divide by 2 to the other side. It becomes times 2. Question 7 says, here is a quadrilateral. Part A is asking us, write down the special name for this quadrilateral. Well, this quadrilateral is called a trapezium. Part B says, on the grid below, draw a right-angled triangle. So a right-angled triangle is where we have 2 straight lines that meet at a right angle, and then a diagonal line that joins them together called the hypotenuse. So that is a right angle triangle, and we can see that the right angle here is 90 degrees. Question 8 says, Nina orders some items from a DIY shop. Here is her bill. Part A is asking us to complete all the missing information in the bill. So we need to work out the quantity of wooden plank and the total for the tin of paint. So let's start with the tin of paint. Nina buys 2 tins of paint. Each one costs £24.95, and so £24.95 multiplied by 2 is equal to £49.90. And so the total for the tins of paint is £49.90. We know that the total for a wooden plank is £232.50, and the cost of each one is £7.75. So to work out the quantity, we're just going to divide. So that's 232.5 divided by 7.75, which is the price of 1, and that gives us 30. So Nina buys or orders 30 wooden planks. The final thing that we need to do is work out the total cost. So we just need to add all of the totals together. That's 119.96, add 49.9, add 232.5, add 14.95, and if you put that into your calculator, the total becomes 417.31. So the total cost for everything is £417.31. At the beginning of January, Jeff had £892.48 in his bank account. During January, Jeff had £4.47 interest added to his account, paid £240 into his account, and spent £365.50 from his account. How much money did Jeff have in his account at the end of January? So he starts off with £892.48. He then adds 4.47 worth of interest and pays in £240. And then he spends £365.50. And so we have to minus that from the total. If we put that into our calculator, he's left with £771.45. Question 9 says there are 200 people at a party. 2/5 of the people are children. The rest of the people are adults. 35% of the children are vegetarian. 45% of the adults are vegetarian. How many people are not vegetarian? So we have 200 people at a party and 2/5 of them are children. So we can say that the total number of children is equal to 200 multiplied by 2/5, and that is equal to 80. So there are 80 children at the party, and therefore the total number of adults is just 200 minus 80, which is 120. So that's the total number of adults. 35% of the children are vegetarian, so vegetarian children is 35%, which we're going to change into a decimal place. So that's 35 over 100, which is equal to 0.35. So 80 children multiplied by 0.35, and that is equal to 28. So 28 of the children are vegetarian. We can do the same thing for the adults. The vegetarian adults is equal to 45% of them. So if you change that into a decimal place, that's 45 over 100, which is 0.45. And so 120 adults multiplied by 0.45 gives us 54. So 54 adults are vegetarian. So if we add them together, we get the total number of vegetarians. That's 28 children plus 54 adults. And that is equal to 82 in total. And so the question is asking us to work out how many people are not vegetarian. So it's 200 in total. So not vegetarian is equal to 200 minus 82, which is equal to 118. So 118 people are not vegetarian. Question 10 says, here is part of a train timetable between Horwich and Manchester. Question A is asking us, how long should the 7:46 train from Horwich take to get to Salford? Well, it leaves at 7:46, and as we can see from the timetable, it arrives at Salford at 8:05. So, to get from 7:46 to 8:05, it takes 19 minutes. Barney has a job interview in Manchester. Barney takes 6 minutes to walk from his home to the station in Lostock. He will take 8 minutes to walk from the station in Manchester to his interview. Barney needs to be at the interview no later than 9 o'clock. B, part 1 is asking us, what is the latest time Barney can leave his house and be on time for the interview? So if he has to be at his interview by 9 o'clock and it takes him 8 minutes to walk to the station, he has to arrive to Manchester station at 9 o'clock minus the 8 minutes, so 8:52. So that's the latest that he can get to Manchester station. Looking at the timetable, the closest time to 8:52 arriving in Manchester is here at 8:45. And so the latest train arriving in Manchester is at 8:45. And so that means that he needs to get to the Lostock train station by 8:17 a.m. So must arrive at Lostock station for 8:17. Now the question says that it takes 6 minutes to walk from his home to the station in Lostock. So if he has to arrive at 8:17, the latest he can leave his house is 8:17 minus the 6 minutes, and that is 8:11. And so the answer is 8:11 in the morning. The time of Barney's interview is changed. Now he has to be at the interview no later than 9:15. What effect does the change of time have on the latest time Barney can leave his house? Well, as we can see from the train schedule, it has no effect. And the reason for this is he still has to arrive at Manchester Station on the 8:45 train. Question 11 says you can use this graph to change between miles and kilometers. Part A is asking us change 10 miles into kilometers. So we can see 10 miles is here on the y-axis. And so if we go across and then go down, we can see that 10 miles is 16 kilometers. Part B says Rob drives 17 miles from Bridlington to Scarborough. He then drives 50 kilometers from Scarborough to Staves. What is the total distance Rob drives? Give your answer in miles. Well, we have the distance from Bridlington to Scarborough, and that's 17 miles. Now, the question is asking us to give our answer in miles, and so we need to convert the distance from Scarborough to Staves. Now, we know that's 50 kilometers, and so if we go back to our graph, we can see that 25 kilometers is roughly 15.5 miles, and so we can double it to get 50 kilometers, and that will be 31 miles. So we can say 50 kilometers, which is roughly 15.5 multiplied by 2, which is 31 miles. And so 17 plus the 31 gives us 48. So he travels 48 miles in total. 12 says a shop sells apples and oranges. There are 6 apples in each pack of apples. There are 7 oranges in each bag of oranges. The shop sells X packs of apples and Y bags of oranges. Write an expression in terms of X and Y for the total number of apples and oranges this shop sells. Well, let's call apples X and we'll call oranges Y. There are 6 apples in one pack of apples, and there are 7 oranges in one bag of oranges, and so that's Y. And so our expression is 6x plus 7y. 13 says the diagram shows a crate and a box. The crate is 3 meters by 1 meter by 1.5 meters. The crate is completely filled with the boxes. Each box is 20 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 75 centimeters. Work out the total number of boxes in the crate. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to convert the units, either work in meters or centimeters. Let's work in centimeters. So we know that this 3 meters is 300 centimeters. This 1 meter is 100 centimeters. And this 1.5 meters is 150 centimeters. The next thing that we can do is we can work out the volume of each box and the volume of the crate. So the volume of the crate is going to be 300 multiplied by 100 multiplied by 150, and that is equal to 4.5 million, or 4,500,000 centimeters cubed. The volume of a box is going to be 20 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 75, and that is equal to 15,000 centimeters cubed. And so to work out how many boxes are going to fit in the crate, we're going to divide both volumes. So we can say 4,500,000 divided by 15,000, and that should give us 300. So a total of 300 boxes can fit inside the crate. Question 14 says, Harry works in a shop. From Monday to Friday, his basic rate of pay is £8 per hour. On Saturday and Sunday, Harry's rate of pay is 1.5 times his basic rate of pay. The table shows the number of hours Harry worked each day last week. Work out Harry's total pay last week. So from Monday to Friday, he has a base rate pay of £8. And so we can say 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 is the total number of hours he worked from Monday to Friday. That's 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30. So he worked 30 hours from Monday to Friday. He gets paid a basic rate of £8. So that's 30 times 8. And that's equal to £240. He then works on Saturday and Sunday for 4 plus 3 hours, which is 7 hours. Now, for the 7 hours, he gets his base rate of pay multiplied by 1.5. So it's 7 times 8 times 1.5, and that is equal to £84. So he makes £84 over the weekend. So the total for the week is going to be 240, add the 84, that's 4, 12. So the total he makes is £324. Question 15 says, the table gives information about the ages of 41 children in Blackrod Football Club. Part A is asking us to work out the mean age. Give your answer correct to one decimal place. So the first thing that we need to do is work out the total age of all 41 children added together. So what we need to do is we need to multiply the age by the frequency. So 8 times 6, 9 times 7, 10 times 15, 11 times 11, and 12 times 2. So 8 times 6 is equal to 48. 9 times 7 is equal to 63. 10 times 15 is 150. 11 times 11 is 121. And 12 times 2 is 24. And if we add these together, we get a total age of 406. And so the total age of all 41 children added together is 406. And so to get the mean age of one child, it's 406 divided by the number of children, which is 41. If we put that into our calculator, we get 9.9 to one decimal place. So the average age or the mean age is 9.9 years. Rohan is working out the modal age of the children in Blackrod Football Club. He says the highest frequency is 15, so the modal age is 15. Part B is asking us, is Rohan's answer correct? Give a reason for your answer. Well, he's right in saying that the highest frequency is 15, but that is for an age of 10. So the modal age is 10, not 15. 16a says, write 126 as a product of its prime factors. So we start off with 126. I can divide it by 2, so it's 2 times 63. 2 is a prime number. 63 can be broken down into 9 times 7, and 7 is a prime number, so I'm going to circle that. And then 9 can be broken down into 3 times 3, and 3 is a prime number, so I circled both of those. And so 126 as a product of its prime factors is 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. Part B says, find the highest common factor of 126 and 210. Well, we're going to do what we did in Part A, which is work out the product of prime factors for both of these numbers. We know that 126 is 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. If we do the same thing for 210, I know that that can be broken down into 21 times 10. 10 can be broken down into 5 times 2, both of which are prime numbers. 21 can be broken down into 7 times 3, both of which are prime numbers. The next thing that we need to do is we need to see which numbers are common in both 126 and 210. Well, we have a 2 and a 2, 3 and a 3, and a 7 and a 7. And so 2 times 3 times 7 is equal to 42. And so the highest common factor of both of these numbers is 42. Question 17 says, the table shows information about the times in minutes 100 people took to complete a bike race. On the grid below, draw a frequency polygon for this information. Well, we can see from the axes that the y-axis is frequency and the x-axis is time. But to get the time, we need to get the middle number between the ranges. So the middle number between 120 and 140 is going to be 130, then 150, 170, 190, and 210. And that gives us our x coordinate. So the first coordinate is going to be 130 and 12, which is here, 150 and 28, which is here, 170 and 30, which is here, 190 and 22, which is here, and finally 210 and 8, which is down here. We then need to just connect the dots with straight lines. And that is our frequency polygon drawn. Question 18a is asking us to write 3.402 times 10 to the power of 5 as an ordinary number. Well, we can see that the indice for the 10 is a positive number, and so we're going to move the decimal place to the right. So we have 3.402, and we're going to move it to the right 5 places. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we fill in the gaps with zeros, and that gives us a number of 340,200. Part B says write 0.8026 in standard form. To write this into standard form, we need to make sure that the first number is a non-zero number. So we can see that if we have 0.8026, our first number currently is 0, and so we need to move the decimal place 1 place to the right, and that will give us 8.026, and so you can see that the first number is a non-zero number. And so we write times 10, and as we move the decimal place to the right, it's minus 1. So our answer is 8.026 times 10 to the power of minus 1. Question 19 says, use ruler and compasses to construct the bisector of angle ABC. You must show your construction lines. Well, in the exam, you're going to make sure that you use a ruler and a compass, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do. So if I have my compass, like so, and I have my pencil here, I'm going to put this point here, and I'm going to spread it out here. And I'm going to draw an arc here and here from point B. And so now I have two arcs, one on line BA and another one on line BC. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put my compass here now, and I'm going to draw another arc in the middle here, like so. And if I do the same thing from this place here, I'm going to have something that looks like this. And so finally, to show the bisector of angle ABC, we just draw a straight line from this point here using our ruler to this point here, like so. And there you have a bisector of angle ABC. Question 20 says Dan is playing cards. The probability that he will win a game of cards is 0.3. Dan plays 2 games of cards. Complete the probability tree diagram. So we know that probability is always out of 1. And so if the probability that he wins a game is 0.3, then the probability that he does not win is 1 minus 0.3, which is 0.7. And so we can carry that on for game 2. The probability that he does win is 0.3, and the probability he does not win is 0.7, and it's the same here, 0.3 and 0.7. Part B says work out the probability that Dan does not win either game. So the probability that Dan does not win either game is the probability that he loses the first game and then loses the second game. And so on our probability tree diagram, it's this line here and then this line here. So he has to lose the first game, which is 0.7, and, which means multiply, in probability tree diagrams, he has to lose the second game, which is 0.7 as well. And so that equals 0.49. 21 says, Robin buys a total of 240 pens and pencils, where the ratio of the number of pens to the number of pencils is 3 to 5. Robin pays 9 pence for each pen. She sells each pen for 11 pence. Robin pays 6 pence for each pencil, and she sells each pencil for 10 pence. Robin sells all of the pens and pencils. Work out Robin's percentage profit. Give your answer correct to one decimal place. You must show all your working. So the first thing that we do with all ratio questions is to work out the total ratio. So that's 3 plus 5, and that's 8. So to work out how much one ratio is worth, it's 240 divided by 8, and that's equal to 30. So one part of this ratio is equal to 30 pens and pencils. So to work out the total number of pens, it's going to be the ratio of 3 multiplied by 30, and so we know we have 90 pens. If we do the same thing for the total number of pencils, it's going to be 5 multiplied by 30, which is equal to 150. And you can see that 90 plus 150 gives us a total of 240. We can now work out how much she pays for each pen and pencil, and then how much she sells for each, and then work out the percentage profit. So let's work out how much Robin pays for the pens. Well, that's just going to be the 90 pens multiplied by 9 pence, and that's equal to 810 pence. If we do the same thing for the pencils, that's 150 pencils multiplied by 6 pence, and that gives us 900 pence. And so the total amount paid is 810 plus 900, and that is equal to 1,710 pence. Now we can work out how much she gets for selling. So sells pens, that's 90 pens for 11 pence each, and that's equal to 990 pence. And if we do the same thing for the pencils, that's 150 pencils, each for 10 pence, which is 1,500 pence. And so the total amount sold is 1,500 plus 990, which is equal to 2,490 pence. And so to work out the percentage profit, it's the difference, which is 2,490, minus how much she paid for it, which is 1,710, over 1,710. And as we need it to be a percentage profit, it's multiplied by 100 to make it into a percentage, and that gives us 45.6%. That is the percentage profit. Question 22 says, the stem and leaf diagram shows the test scores of 23 students from school A. 23 students from school B did the same test. Their median score was 56. The range of their scores was 47. Compare the distribution of the test scores of the students from school A with the distribution of the test scores of the students from school B. Well, the question has told us the median score and the range of the scores for school B. So let's work out the median score and the range of the scores for school A. Well, the range is probably the easiest thing to start with. The range is just the largest number minus the smallest number. So that's range of school A, the largest number, which is 79, minus 30, which is equal to 49. The median score of school A is the middle number in the stem and leaf diagram. We'll eliminate each number from each end until we get to the middle number, like so. Keep following, I missed one there. From each end until we get to the middle number, which is, in our case, 57. So the median score of school A is 57. So now we can compare the range and median scores of school A with school B. So the median score of school A is higher than the median score of school B. So median score of school A is higher than that of school B. And the other thing we can talk about is the range. And so the range of school A is higher than that of school B. Question 23 says, Jana used her calculator to find the value of a number t. The answer on her calculator began 10.2. Complete the error interval for t. Well, as the calculator showed it was 10.2, the minimum value that t can be is 10.2. And the maximum value that it can go up to but can't equal is 10.3. 24 says, ABC is a right angled triangle. Calculate the length of AB. Give your answer correct to one decimal place. So we're going to use our rules of trigonometry. We know that the rules are SOH, CA, and TOA. So sine, cosine, and tangent. And we have to look at the triangle to see what we have. Well, this is what we're trying to work out. We'll call this X. We have the angle here, and so we're looking for the opposite length, and we have an adjacent length as well. So we're looking for opposite, and we have adjacent. So looking at the three options, so CA, TOA, we can see that we're going to use the tangent rule. So tan of the angle 62 is equal to opposite, which is X, over adjacent, which is 7.6. And so we rearrange this equation to make X the subject. That's X is equal to tan 62 multiplied by 7.6. And if you put that into your calculator, you'll get 14.3. So the length AB is 14.3 centimeters. Question 25 says, simplify fully 2x cubed multiplied by y to the power of 5 times 7x squared multiplied by y. So we can multiply all the like terms. So 2 times 7 is 14. X to the power of 3 multiplied by x to the power of 2, you add the indices. So that's 3 plus 2, which is 5. And y to the power of 5 multiplied by y, and there's a power of 1 here. Again, we're multiplying indices, and so you can add them. 5 plus 1 is 6. So the answer is 14x to the power of 5, y to the power of 6. Part B says simplify m squared to the power of minus 3. So when you have indices in brackets like so, you multiply the indices together. So that's equal to m to the power of 2 multiplied by minus 3, and that's m to the power of minus 6, like so. Question 26 says, Peter invests £4,500 in a savings account for 3 years. he gets 1.8% per year compound interest. Work out the total amount of interest Peter gets. Well, the general formula for compound interest is A, which is the initial amount, multiplied by 1 plus I, which is the interest amount, to the power of n, which is the number of years. So we have A, which is £4,500, I, which is the interest amount of 1.8%. Now, for our calculator, we need to change this into a decimal place, and that's 1.8 over 100, which is 0.018. And then finally, we have n, which is the number of years, which is 3. So if we plug this into our equation, it looks like this: 4,500 multiplied by 1 plus 0.018 to the power of 3. And if you put that into your calculator, you'll get £4,747.40. Now the question is asking us to work out the total amount of interest he earns, and so we're going to minus 4,747.4 away from the original amount of 4,500, and that gives us £247.40. So the amount of interest he earns is £247.40. Question 27 says, line L is drawn on a grid. Find an equation for the line L. Well, we know that the general formula of a straight line is y equals mx plus c. M is the gradient, and we do that by picking 2 points on our line and then finding the change in the y coordinates and dividing that by the change in the x coordinates. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And c is just the y-intercept, i.e. where does the line cross the y-axis. Let's work out our gradient first, m. So we need to pick 2 points on our graph. Let's pick this point here and this point here. So the coordinates for this point here is -2 and 7, and we'll call this y2 and x2, and this coordinate here is 0, 3, so x1 and y1. And so if we put it into our equation for the gradient, y2 is 7 minus y1, which is 3, over x2, which is -2, minus x1, which is 0. So 7 minus 3 is 4, and -2 minus 0 is just -2. And so 4 divided by -2 gives us -2. So our gradient is -2. And that makes sense as the line is going down. To work out the y-intercept c, we just ask ourselves, where does the line L cross the y-axis? Well, it crosses here. And so the value of c is just 3. And so if you plug these values into the general formula for the straight line, it's y is equal to -2x plus 3. Brings us to the end of the paper. I hope that helped, and I hope that you were able to follow through and understand how we tackled each and every question. Leave a comment below to let me know if this video helped you and if you have any questions. Make sure to like, share and subscribe and hit that notification bell.